raise your hand if you want to be in public office. Oh, wait, we're all over here. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I actually want to start with a bit of a round robin. I'd love to know, what do you think is the skill that you need to actually succeed in public office? I'm going to start with Professor Hanan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm very glad to be among this distinguished panel. I work at the Shura Council. I started there as a member in 2013, and I was very excited to be a member, actually, because, you know, Shura Council is the legislative council in Saudi Arabia. That's where the laws are being drawn. And parliaments and the Shura Council practice two important functions: oversight and legislation, and both are important for any social transformation and any change in any society.
So I want to ask you, what skill do you think you have that's made you succeed there? Because you are assistant speaker, so you keep everybody in line.
I studied management and leadership, and I think it's important to know how to make decisions and how to draw the legislation, and I think these are very important skills for any leaders. Driving legislation, making decision-making.
Excellent. Governor Koike, what do you think is a skill that has made you successful as governor of Tokyo?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, ladies and ladies.
There may be one man in here. Let's see.
Oh, well,
I don't know. Probably.
Wonderful gentlemen as well. I'm so happy to be here, and this is my third visit to Riyadh, nice city. The first time when I was here was the early 70s. Maybe before you were born. And the second time was in 2016, as I came here as a member of delegation, official delegation headed by Prime Minister Abe, because I was a national security advisor to the Prime Minister at that time. And since 2016, I took office as a governor. Before that, I was a member of parliament and elected almost 10 times. But during the period of my time, I served as the Minister of the Environment and Minister of Defense. And anyway, to answer your question, first of all, passion. Passion. And concrete, how can I say, blueprint to how to make people be happy or happier. And also the skill to get the empathy by people. This is very important.
I love that. That's how you got elected 10 times.
Oh, yes.
That does not happen often
Thank you.
in the U.S., so that's good. I love it. Dr. Obi, nice to see you.
Lovely to see you.
And you were also the former Minister of Education in Nigeria. So you've had many different roles. What do you think is the skill that has made you successful?
I think it's avidity for knowledge. Always be curious, wanting to know what you don't know. I found that skill has enabled me to be very analytical about situations. And another skill is authenticity. It's a skill. You know, because what that does for me is I don't need to be anybody else but myself.
Yep.
And so regardless of how it pans out, at least I know I have been true to myself. Women need that skill. And my third skill is the skill of empathy. Like she said, it is a skill.
Can be learned.
It can be learned. And people need to understand that public service imposes a duty of care on us. And so if you're in public service and you don't have that empathy connection, then you need to sit with yourself and ask yourself questions of how you can actually get it.
Can I be sexist a second and say I've never heard men talk about duty of care when they've been in public office? I can say that at a women's conference. So that's very powerful. I also think being yourself is something came up this morning in a panel where it was talking about entrepreneurship. Farah, what do you think?
First of all, thank you very much. Sure. Very pleased to be here today. I think they mentioned most of the skills I could think of, but for me, it's a combination of two things. Number one, I think technical skills are very important. This is a very competitive environment. You need to be ready, you need to be prepped, you need to know what you're talking about. And second, I think, and another very important skills I think mentioned is empathy, because leadership with knowledge is important, but with empathy, especially for women, which comes very naturally, is important in public sector. We touch upon lives of millions of people, and this is a very natural skill that women bring with. So I think leading with empathy and knowledge is a combination that is required. And I think you need to have thick skin. This is a very challenging...
I was wondering when somebody would say thick skin. That would have been the first thing I
This is
thought.
a very challenging environment, rapidly evolving. A lot of smart people that are competing to the best roles. And unless you have thick skin as a woman leader in public service, it's going to be hard for you to navigate through.
I love that. Silvana, how about yourself? Obviously, you've got your role now, but you are also vice president in the European Parliament.
Well, Diane, I think I'm going to make you happy, because the one thing that I want to put first and foremost out there is resilience, the thick skin. And I grew up with two brothers, and this, in a way, prepared me for the political or the public environment.
Other brothers
space.
here?
No, these are all wonderful sisters.
people
No, but it's still very much a man's world. If you look at just the political leadership landscape, more than 90% of the presidents, prime ministers, heads of state, heads of government are men, right? So we're very, very far away from anything close to parity, or even like a minimum percentage of, let's say, 10, 20%. So this kind of growing up in a boys dominated environment, that also enabled me to just, throw a punch, pretty literally when it was necessary.
Did you literally throw a punch?
Not in politics.
Okay.
But with my brothers, I'm not sure if I could say no. But and the second one, I think, is also that one doesn't lose sight of why am I doing what I'm doing. Because the more important you get, the higher the position, the more red carpets that are rolled out, you think, okay, this is about me, and I'm so great. But it's not about you. It's about the position that you hold for a certain time. And if you just follow the red carpet sort of offering, you lose the sight of why are you actually going in there for this sense of public service. And I think those two, resilience and not losing sight of why you do it.
True. What draws you to public office in the first place? Before I get down deep, does anybody want to mention what drew you to public office? I'm looking, you're nodding, Dr. Obi. What drew you into this?
So I was raised by a dad that always said to us, I think he was a slant on Descartes, the philosopher, who said, I think, therefore I am. So my dad used to say to us, I serve, therefore I lead. He always said,
I serve, therefore I lead. That's a beautiful saying.
So that got us wanting to serve. You wanting to serve. You didn't want to be the one dodging work that any other person could do other than yourself. You just put yourself into it and you would do it. And another thing that my dad told us was that, that the only benefit of privilege is to use your privilege for those who are outside of privilege, so they can become people with opportunity. So I grew up with all these kinds of sayings. What else do you think I would do? After I had been in the private sector, and while I was in the private sector, I became a very significant voice for democracy and for good governance in my country. And that immediately put me in a place where, even though I was in private sector, trained as a Deloitte trained chartered accountant, my pivot was natural into public policy.
Well, and there's also pivots within public policy. I want to start sort of from the outside and go into what's happening in the kingdom. So I want to go to you next, Governor. You've had these different roles as an advisor, as you mentioned, to Abe, and also in the role as governor of Tokyo. Give us a sense of how it is to manage this massive, dynamic city in Japan. What have been the skills, the challenges, the mission that you brought into this?
Well, before that, I have told you that this is my third visit to Riyadh, but I found a big, significant change since my last visit. and women are driving cars and yes, and traveling along, and what a change! And it was done by the strong leadership. Whatever the gender is, the Saudi Vision 2030 transformed the country for, comfortable for everyone. Male or female, no question. Yes, and children, and also for the handicapped or not. And the same thing can be said to manage the mega city like Tokyo. We have 14 million population, but I think in Nigeria,
22 million in Lagos.
in Lagos, but in a small village, the need of people, need of citizens are same. And it's a common agenda that we have to face for education, child rearing, and industry, and vitalize economy. It's the agenda is the same, but since I'm the very first governor of Tokyo and third time re-elected, my priority agenda is to realize female or women's dream come true, and also my prioritized agenda is children care free. For instance, the lunch fee go free now, and also the tuition is also free for everyone.
That'd be amazing. I mean, as a professional, I just remember childcare. I get a raise. The person taking care of my kids get a raise. It's always top of mind. I want to talk about what's happening here, Farah. I'm looking at you. In terms of the kingdom, give us a sense of the landscape right now for women's leadership and the priorities. Just paint a picture for us of what's happening.
Sure.
Now.
So as everyone knows, the kingdom embarked on Vision 2030 journey back in 2015. And a lot of reforms have been going on women specifically. Today, just a bit of statistics. More than 40% of the workforce in government is women. More than 30% of leaders in private and public sector are women. And this is not by luck. It's because the government took on a bunch of initiatives throughout the vision since launch to entice and excite women and make sure we create the right environment for them to be part of this change, because we realize that for us to accomplish and achieve a transformation of this magnitude, we cannot do it with half the society. We need to leverage every single talent we have in the society to achieve our ambitious targets. And that's exactly across the whole value chain, starting from education.
You can clap. I heard one person clap.
Starting from education, giving access to every single girl, quality schooling and university. And then moving on to other initiatives to help women get to the workforce, from subsidizing daycaring, for example, helping with transportation
Some of the priorities that Governor Koiki talked about.
And that didn't stop at women in government, but also other women. They don't want to work, for example, for others. So as they have entrepreneurial skills, a lot of programs that helped entrepreneurial women to get through and start businesses. And we've seen a big rise in small businesses led by women. So overall, we realize in the kingdom today that this is a massive transformation. We need to tap into every single talent we have. We're trying to unlock new sectors, tourism, for example, entertainment, culture. These were not part of the economy of a GDP 15, 20 years ago. Today, we want to diversify our sources of growth, and we can only do that by unlocking these sectors. And to be able to unlock, we need to unlock also talent.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be talking about that later, actually, because we're going to be talking with some of the ministers. Let me go over to Professor Hanan, because I want to pivot a little bit off what Farah just said to the how and how you're engaging. Let's talk about public service, because I think that certainly in my country, there's a hesitancy to go into public service because there's a big spotlight that goes on your head. I don't know if that's the case here, so I'd love to hear you talk about how are you engaging both this generation and the next generation of women coming up to want to do what you're doing?
Yes, I think in Saudi Arabia the story is different because the public sector was the main employer,
Right.
And it's the main driver for change in Saudi Arabia and more biggest sector. So more women were working in the public sector than in the private sector. The Vision 2030 came and changed that whole set, and even it changed the leadership style. Government leadership now, or public service leadership, is completely different. It's
From what to what?
from traditional leadership, hierarchy-based, very slow motion. Now it is really completely aligned. All the government sectors are aligned and working towards outcome. So it's more outcome-driven leadership and alignment and coordination. And I liked what Silvana was saying about the red carpet. It's not about you. It's about the job you are doing. And the government really invested in developing leadership in the public sector to be effective and to be more customer-driven and more focused on the citizens' service. And I think from my position, from where I am right now at the Shura Council, I think we are witnessing a legislative revolution. Revolution is really the key for all the change that is taking place, and it is driving the change for women and for younger people. So we were calling for women to be appointed as ambassadors, for women to be leaders, for women to be working in the private sector. And today, 12 years, so we entered the Shura Council in 2013. Mm-hmm. And last year, we had a woman astronaut. So the sky is the limit.
So I have to ask something personal, though. It must be a kick to be an assistant, speaker, right? That sounds like a very enjoyable job because you're the one who sort of makes sure everybody else stays in line. Is it?
It is. It's a responsibility and it's an honor. It's a privilege, really, but it's a big responsibility.
Of course.
Women leadership in parliaments is very rare around the world. So to have a woman assistant speaker, which is the third person in charge of the Shura Council in Saudi Arabia, the leader of the Muslim world, is a big message to the rest of the world. So I really take that responsibility don't take it lightly at all. And I try to enjoy every part of my job.
Okay to enjoy your job.
Thank you. It's okay to enjoy it.
Just because you enjoy it doesn't mean you're not also excellent at it. Silvana, before I ask about what you're doing now, I do have to point out one of your greatest accomplishments in Parliament you were talking about. Tell everybody else, because I love this story of one of your lasting legacies.
Yeah, well, it's you make it sound like a super big deal. No, but while I was serving in the European Parliament, I had 2 of my 3 children. And of course, when you're pregnant, you see things slightly differently. And I came to realize that in this massive administration, which has more than 700 members and thousands of employees, there was not a single space, if you're a mother, to change the diapers of your child. And I just thought, this is so strange. We're passing legislation, we're passing recommendations on work-life balance, but it just showed it's not a place where women belong, because nobody thought of the life cycle of women, which for many includes maternity. So it took the length of the pregnancy to convince the administration to install places for diaper change, not only in women's bathrooms, but also in men's bathrooms, because of course there's also fathers.
And they're still there today.
And they're still there today.
I like
so
that.
In case you ever come to visit the European Parliament, you see a diaper changing, think of me.
The Silvana room. I had a friend once say, what if they took out all the men's bathrooms? Maybe people would, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there. Talk about what you're doing now and what the mission is.
Yeah, so one of the lessons learned while I was serving was that there are those glass walls for women in politics. So you find many women in the committees for gender equality, for social affairs, education, everything extremely relevant, but finance is important, trade is important, foreign affairs is important, and there's very, very few women. And the total numbers speak for themselves. So I thought when you're in a minority and you vault into certain topics, you need to get organized. So I started Women Political Leaders, which is the global network of women that are in public office. And the idea is that through strengthening, through this peer-to-peer learning, through amplifying, making each other more visible, it will serve to bring more women into this job. and motivate them, but also keep those that are in there to stay longer, because the reality is also that women, because of this quite competitive and adverse environment that was mentioned before, leave this space way faster than men do, which means a lot of knowledge of the unwritten rules gets lost.
Yeah. Did you get, before I move on to Dr. Obi, were there any incidents, did you find it tough when you were in office for that decade? Did you feel like you were scrutinized, or were there elements that on a personal level made you not want to continue?
Well, I think there was hardly any comment on social media that wasn't at least a bit sexualized, which I'm spelling it out here because it just is something that happens to a lot of women that are in public spaces, also journalists. And that does something to you. If that's a continuous, because you want to be recognized for what you do, and not if you're old, young, have kids, no kids, and so on and so on. And there's also quite a lot of online hate, and I think there needs to be very much a recognition of that on cracking down on that, because it just amplifies what's happening online and also translates to offline.
Before I go to the floor, Dr. Obi, I know you're involved in this too. What policy shift do you think would make a difference in terms of attracting women, keeping them in public service? I know we're talking about, 5 strong women up here who've had a long history of it. What would you do?
There's a deliberateness, such as what we've seen. That's what our dear friend, the Prof. And the Assistant Speaker of the Shura Council was talking about, a deliberateness. You can't stumble into it. Countries don't just suddenly have women in their politics, in their governance. They actually deliberately say, we can't be winning with half of our population,
Which is
period.
actually the sort of thing Vision 2030 does.
Precisely.
Right? Yeah.
So that deliberateness, and the leader just demonstrates it. And everybody says, we are a different society from now. And people fall in line, okay? Then number 2 is you have to make sure that you are giving all the resources to remove the barriers that can hold women back, even when you have decided on that policy.
I love that.
Okay? And then number 3 is you have to continuously ensure that the women are not building silos, because when they are in their job, they need to understand how to connect the dots. And that gives them that capacity to be seen as leaders in their personal right.
Yep.
Nobody comes around thinking you're there because you're a woman.
And silos also, of course, of areas of coverage like economic planning
Precisely.
versus health.
And I liked what Farah said about the technical skills. There are 2 types of skills.
Can I cut you off there? I'm
fine.
sorry, because
That's
I want to
fine.
actually go to the floor. I want to get an American perspective that's not mine. It's actually Alison Dilworth. Is she here, the chargé d'affaires from the U.S. Embassy? Yes. Oh, there you are. Okay. I want to just get, what lessons you've learned, to talk a little more about that, so to get your perspective from the floor and then come back. So is there a mic? You're American, just project. I'm kidding. No, we've got a mic. We've got a mic. Let's wait for that, because I know we're... And thank you for joining us. Nice to see you again.
There's a mic here.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, thanks for the question. I think, in my country, we've had quite a bit of change recently, and leading through uncertainty is a challenge. And I think all the women on the stage have led through uncertainty, and could give all the women in here quite a bit of perspective on that. For me, I think it's been getting back to the traditional sort of building blocks of what we do, and for me, that's diplomacy. So getting back to the traditional communication and connecting to people, which I think is something that women naturally do very well, and doing your job just really damn well, and showing the world that that is something that you can do, and something that should be emulated. So I think that would be my piece of advice.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chargé. I know we have not a lot of time left, so I want to ask each of you, what's a bold idea that you would suggest to drive the kind of change that you want to see, or advice, just some final thoughts as to if you could make a policy change right now to get where you want to go or where we need to go, what would you do? And I'm going to start with you.
Oh my God, I was hoping you start over
No,
there.
I was looking down there. I like to shake it up.
Exactly.
You know,
No,
just
but
impromptu.
I think what I really liked what you said, Hanan, about that the realization that transformation starts in public service is so important, because if we take the step back and we look at who actually creates the framework in which we as a society live, it's the public service. So my bold idea would be, and maybe that's overly bold, but I would start in this room and say, all of you here, super strong, accomplished leaders, just decide you're going to go into public service for a couple of years. It's not a life sentence. You can do it for a time.
No, we're not going to say
and
the
make
word
a
life
difference.
sentence and public
not-
service. That's not, yeah, that's very funny.
Okay. No, it doesn't have to be for life, but
Okay.
it could be for a while, and you could definitely make a big
Well-
impact in wherever you are. I think if we shouldn't leave it to just a certain
Yeah,
certain group
I
of
think
people
you're right.
to do that.
Okay, Farah?
So it's not a policy, I'm thinking right now, not a policy change or shift, but what I would like to see in a few years, I would like to see more women represented in boards of directors.
Corporate
companies,
boards?
corporate
That's
boards.
very powerful.
I sit on 6, 7 boards, and I'm the only woman in the room. I've always been the only woman in the room. And while this is intimidating, it gives a lot of power because your voice is heard and your ideas are heard. I would like to see more women sit on boards where decisions are made and policies are crafted and voices are heard. So
I love that.
That's one thing.
It also raises the point, we always talk about what the private sector can bring to the public sector. There's so much the public sector can
Exactly.
bring to the private.
Exactly.
Dr. Obi, what's your bold idea?
My bold idea would be to identify the significant things that would make women who are in public office produce phenomenal results. So we put to rest the idea of leadership being gender-based, that it's a masculine concept. Because if we can show that these women have produced significant impact, radical changes, then we have evidence to suggest that the more we have women in public offices, the better our world
That's
will
why
be.
we have professors in public office too. Let me go to Governor Koiki. What is your bold idea?
Well, since I'm elected as a governor, I started to organize a female mayors and governors network. When I started with my colleague, only 36 mayors and governors were elected, because we are in our society, the election is the must. So the bold idea is, don't wait until you are appointed or you get elected. But if you don't buy lottery, you will not win.
I love
Okay.
that. That's good. Don't wait.
So
Perfect.
let us challenge, since the world is so changeable and in turbulence, and this is the chance for women.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
let us challenge.
excellent. And last word goes to you, Professor
I
Hanan.
have a very bold idea, given the fact that I'm in an all-women's panel and all-women's room. I think women should be promoted into leadership positions, but I don't think they should be a statistic. I think women who should be appointed to leadership positions should be qualified women. If they are not qualified, we don't want to see women in any leadership
Yeah, no
position,
tokenism.
because that would reflect back on women. The other thing, if we're talking about inclusion, so I would like also women to be inclusive, and women lead for men and for women and for society in general. I don't like to see this.
I can't think of a better marching orders than that. Please join me in thanking our fabulous panel. Thank you so much. Thank you.
For the role model.